The stars burned cold and distant as the Calithian Republic fell. Ambassador Kale stood in the command center of the orbital station, watching his homeworld burn beneath him. Green continents that had known peace for 3,000 years now glowed with the orange light of burning cities. The Vrexian dominion had come without warning, without mercy, and without end. "Ambassador, the planetary defense grid is down," reported Commander Thera, her violet skin pale with fear. 80% of our fleet is destroyed. They're landing ground forces in the capital." Kyle's hands trembled as he gripped the rail overlooking the tactical display. The Calithians had built a civilization on trade, art, and diplomacy. War was something they studied in ancient history texts, not something they prepared for. Their weapons were outdated, their ships designed for cargo rather than combat, and their soldiers were simply citizens who had volunteered when the attack began. "Send word to the Galactic Council," Kale said quietly. "Request immediate military assistance." Thera's eyes fell. "We sent that request 6 hours ago, Ambassador. They say they are considering our petition. The Vrexian delegate has filed a counterclaim saying we provoked the attack." "That's a lie." Kale slammed his fist on the console. "They wanted our trade routes and our resources. There was no provocation. The Council doesn't care about truth, Ambassador. You know this. They care about stability and not upsetting powerful members." Kyle did know this. He had spent 20 years as a diplomat, navigating the complex politics of the Galactic Council. The Council valued order above justice, consensus above courage. They would debate his people's extinction for weeks before deciding it was too complicated to intervene. "Then we use the old ways," Kyle said. He walked to a secured terminal and entered his authorization codes. A hidden panel slid open, revealing an ancient device covered in dust. "The emergency beacon." Thera's eyes widened. "Ambassador, that hasn't been used in 4,000 years. Since before the Council existed. We don't even know if it still works. Our ancestors built it to call for help across the stars, to reach anyone who might listen." Kale activated the device. Ancient symbols flickered to life, glowing with soft blue light. "If the Council won't help us, perhaps someone else will." "But Ambassador, the beacon broadcasts in all directions through all frequencies. It doesn't discriminate. It could reach anyone. Even species we don't want to find us." Kale looked down at his homeworld again. Another city went dark. What could be worse than what's already happening to us? He pressed the final activation sequence. The beacon hummed to life, drawing power from the station's fusion core. It sang out into the darkness of space, a desperate cry for help carrying coordinates, language data, and a simple message. "We are dying. Please help us." The signal raced through space faster than light, piercing through dimensions that normal communication couldn't reach. It spread like ripples in a pond, touching star system after star system. On the Galactic Council homeworld, alarms began screaming. "What is that signal?" demanded Counselor Vexian, a tall being made of crystalline structures. "Where is it coming from?" The technician's scales turned gray with fear. "The Calithian system, Counselor. They've activated a precursor beacon, but sir, the signal path, it's entered the restricted zone." Every being in the chamber went silent. The restricted zone was marked on every galactic map in red. It contained exactly one star system, one small yellow sun, and one planet labeled with a designation that made experienced spacers shudder. Sol 3, classification Deathworld Class 12. "Cut the transmission," Vexian shouted. "Jam it, block it, do anything." "Too late, Counselor. The signal already penetrated the zone. And sir, we're detecting a response." On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the United Terran Defense Council, deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. She had been reviewing supply reports when the communication officer called her to the main screen. "Admiral, we're picking up something strange. It's definitely artificial, definitely alien, and it's broadcasting directly at our system." Sarah's heart raced. 50 years had passed since humanity's first and only contact with alien life. That meeting had ended badly when a misunderstanding led to weapons fire. The aliens had retreated and Earth had been alone ever since, wondering if they'd been judged and found wanting. "What's it saying?" The translation software worked through the alien language data. Words began appearing on the screen. "Under attack. Millions dying. No help coming, please, if anyone can hear this, please." Sarah read the message 3 times. Coordinates followed, along with tactical data showing a massive invasion force destroying a peaceful civilization. She thought about her own children, her own world. She thought about what it would be like if Earth called for help and no one came. "Get me the president," she said, "and start assembling Battle Group 7 full combat loadout. Ma'am, we don't know anything about these aliens. We don't know who's attacking them or why. This could be a trap." Sarah looked at the message again. The desperation was clear in every character, every piece of data. "Someone called for help, Lieutenant." Humans answer when someone calls for help. That's what makes us human. Within hours, Earth's response burned back along the signal path. Message received. "Calithian Republic, help is coming. Hold on." In the Calithian Command Center, Kyle stared at the translated response, tears streaming down his face. They heard us. Someone heard us. On the Council homeworld, Counselor Vexen watched the same response with horror. "Send a priority message to the Calithians immediately. Tell them to cancel their request. Tell them they made a terrible mistake." But the message from Earth had already changed everything. The beacon had reached into the darkness and touched something the galaxy had locked away. The quarantine was broken and the Deathworlders were coming. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 6 hours straight. Representatives from 200 species filled the Great Chamber, and every single one of them was terrified. "The humans have launched a fleet," announced Counselor Vexen, displaying the sensor data for all to see. 47 vessels moving at combat speed toward the Calithian system. They will arrive in 72 hours. Counselor Marith, a floating jellyfish-like being in a tank of ammonia, pulsed with agitation. "We must stop them. Send our own fleet to intercept. The humans cannot be allowed to leave their quarantine zone." "With what fleet?" Vexen asked bitterly. "The Council's peacekeeping force has 12 ships total, designed for patrol duty and showing the flag at ceremonies. The humans are sending 47 warships from a Class 12 Deathworld. Our ships wouldn't last 5 minutes against them." A young counselor from a recently admitted species raised a tentacle. "Forgive my ignorance, but why are we so afraid? Yes, they are from a quarantine world, but surely our advanced civilization can handle one primitive species." The chamber went quiet. Vexen brought up a file marked with red security symbols. "Let me educate you. 50 years ago, we sent a science vessel to observe Sol 3, which we now call Earth. The ship maintained stealth at the edge of their star system. The humans detected it anyway with their primitive radio telescopes. They sent a probe to investigate." "A probe is hardly threatening," the young counselor said. "The probe misfired a positioning thruster. The science vessel's captain thought it was an attack. He fired a warning shot, a low-power laser burst that couldn't harm anything. The humans interpreted it as hostile action." Vexen paused. "In the next 40 seconds, the humans launched 16 nuclear missiles from their planet's surface, fired 3 directed energy weapons from orbital platforms we hadn't even detected, and deployed a kinetic kill vehicle that had been hiding in their moon's shadow. Our science vessel was obliterated. All 73 crew members died." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. 40 seconds? Someone whispered. "From detection to planet-killing response in 40 seconds? The humans called it their defense grid," Vexen continued. "Later intelligence suggested they had even more weapons ready to fire, but held back when they realized their target was destroyed. They sent out first contact protocols immediately after, trying to apologize and explain, but the damage was done. We quarantined their entire system and declared them too dangerous for contact." "What kind of world creates such aggressive beings?" asked Counselor Marith. Vexen pulled up an image of Earth. A beautiful blue and green world swirled on the screen. "A Class 12 Deathworld. The highest danger rating we have. Earth's gravity is twice what most civilized species consider comfortable. Their atmosphere is rich in corrosive oxygen. Their weather systems generate storms that would destroy our cities. Their tectonic plates shift constantly, creating earthquakes and volcanoes. 90% of species that evolve there are predators, competing for survival. Even their plants are often toxic or carnivorous." "Surely you exaggerate," someone protested. "I wish I did. The humans have a saying, 'What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.' On Earth, almost everything is trying to kill you. The humans who survive to adulthood are already veterans of a war against their own planet." On board the UTDC Indomitable, Admiral Sarah Chen reviewed the mission briefing with her senior officers. The ship's conference room was cramped by human standards but would have seemed vast to most galactic species. Humans simply needed more space, more air, more of everything because their biology demanded it. "Intelligence is limited," Sarah admitted. We know the Calithians are a peaceful trading civilization. We know the Vrexians are the aggressors, an empire that's been expanding for decades. Beyond that, we're going in blind. Captain James Rodriguez, commander of the Marine contingent, studied the tactical data. The Vrexians have 200 ships in the Calithian system. We have 47. That's not great odds, Admiral. They're not expecting us, Sarah said, and they've never fought humans before. That's an advantage. You think they'll underestimate us? Asked Commander Lisa Park, the fleet's chief engineer. I'm counting on it. Every species we've intercepted communications from treats warfare like a game with rules. They disable ships, not destroy them. They avoid collateral damage. They give warnings before firing. Sarah smiled grimly. We learned warfare from Earth, from nature red in tooth and claw. We don't follow their rules because we never learned their rules. Commander Park pulled up the ship specifications. The Vrexian vessels rely on energy shields and particle beam weapons. Standard galactic technology, light, fast, efficient. And our ships? Sarah asked. Built like bunkers that can fly. Triple redundant systems, armor plating thick enough to survive re-entry, projectile weapons because railguns don't care about shields, and enough backup generators to power a small city. Park grinned. The indomitable mass is 4 times what a galactic ship of similar size weighs. We're slow, ugly, and over-engineered. We're survivors, Sarah corrected. Every system on these ships was designed by engineers who grew up on a planet trying to kill them. We don't build things that fail gracefully. We build things that work even when they're on fire and half destroyed. Lieutenant Commander Hassan, the tactical officer, looked worried. Admiral, we've been picking up transmissions from the galactic community. They're evacuating systems near our flight path. They're terrified of us. Sarah felt a pang of sadness. Humans had dreamed of meeting aliens for centuries. They had imagined friendship, cultural exchange, learning and growing together. Instead, the galaxy saw them as monsters. Let them be afraid, she said quietly. But they're going to learn something important about monsters. Sometimes monsters are exactly what you need when something worse comes knocking. In the Calithian system, Ambassador Kale received another transmission from the Galactic Council. This one was marked urgent. Ambassador Kale, this is Counselor Vexen. You must rescind your distress call immediately. The species responding to your beacon are from a quarantine world. They are extremely dangerous. We cannot guarantee your safety if they arrive. Kyle looked around the command center. Half his staff was dead. His homeworld was burning. Vrexian troops were executing civilians in the streets and broadcasting it as a warning to other systems that might resist their expansion. He sent a response. Counselor, my people are dying now. The humans cannot possibly be worse than what we're already experiencing. If you will not help us, at least do not interfere with those who will. He closed the channel and looked at Commander Thera. How long until the humans arrive? 60 hours, Ambassador, assuming we survive that long. We will, Kale said with more confidence than he felt. We just need to hold on a little longer. Help is coming. Across the galaxy, the message was spreading. A Deathworld species was on the move. Ships hurried to safety, governments issued warnings, and military forces went on high alert. The humans were coming, and no one knew what would happen when they arrived, except Sarah Chen. She knew exactly what would happen. Someone had called for help, and humanity always answered. Executor Vrax studied the sensor readings with growing amusement. His command ship, the Dominance of Stars, floated in high orbit above the conquered Calithian homeworld. Below, his troops were establishing control with efficient brutality. The resistance had collapsed within days, as expected. The Calithians had been sheep pretending to be warriors. Commander, we're detecting spatial distortions at the system's edge, reported his sensor officer. Multiple contacts incoming. The Galactic Council finally decided to notice us? Vrax asked lazily. He had been expecting some token protest from the Council, maybe a stern message demanding he withdraw. As if words could stop the inevitable expansion of the Dominion. No, sir. The signatures don't match any known Council vessel. Database identifies them as human ships from the quarantine zone. Vrax's amusement grew. The primitives? How many ships? 47 contacts, sir. They're dropping out of jump space now. The main display updated, showing the locations where the human ships were emerging from faster-than-light travel. Vrax's amusement died instantly. The humans weren't appearing at the edge of the system where any sane species would drop out for safety. They were appearing directly in the inner system within weapons range of his fleet. That's impossible, Vrax breathed. The gravitational stress would tear their ships apart. No one emerges from jump space that close to a star. But the humans had. 47 vessels materialized in a perfect combat formation, their shields already raised, weapons already charging. The maneuver would have killed any other species, but somehow these Deathworlders had survived forces that should have destroyed them. All ships, combat alert, Vrax ordered. Target the lead vessels and fire. The Vrexian fleet responded with practiced efficiency. 200 warships turned their particle beam weapons on the nearest human ships and fired in unison. Brilliant lances of energy, each capable of punching through a mountain, struck the human vessels. The human ships kept coming. What? Vrax stared at the display. Report, did we miss? No, sir, direct hits on all targets. But their armor, it's absorbing the energy. Our weapons are barely scratching them. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the Vrexian attack from the bridge of the Indomitable. The ship shuddered as particle beams struck the hull, but the damage reports were minimal. Hull temperature rising in sectors 7 through 12, reported Commander Park. Nothing critical. Armor is holding. Sarah had known it would. Human ships were built to survive re-entry through Earth's thick atmosphere at orbital speeds. They were designed to operate in radiation fields that would cook other species. The Vrexian weapons were powerful, but they were designed to fight ships with energy shields and light armor. Against human engineering, they were nearly useless. Return fire, Sarah ordered calmly. Railguns spread pattern. Let's see how their shields handle kinetic energy. The Indomitable's main railgun fired. A tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed in less than a second. It crossed the distance to the nearest Vrexian ship in a heartbeat. The Vrexian shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and charged particles, had no answer for solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The rod punched through the shield like it wasn't there, through the hull, through the ship's reactor, and out the other side. The Vrexian vessel exploded in a flash of fusion fire. Across the human fleet, 47 railguns spoke as one. 47 Vrexian ships died in the first salvo. Impossible, Vrax screamed. One shot? They destroyed our ships with one shot? Sir, their weapons are primitive kinetic accelerators. But the mass and velocity, they're generating impact forces that our shields can't deflect. We need to adjust our defensive formation. But the humans weren't giving them time. Sarah's fleet moved forward at full thrust, closing the distance. In the vacuum of space, human fusion drives burned bright and angry, pushing the heavy ships forward with brutal acceleration. Launch fighters, Vrax ordered. Overwhelm them with numbers. Thousands of small Vrexian fighters poured from carrier vessels, swarming toward the human fleet like angry insects. They moved with grace and speed, dodging between firing lanes and coordinating their attacks with perfect precision. Captain Rodriguez watched the fighters approach and grinned. Admiral requesting permission to deploy Marines. Permission granted, Captain. Show them how boarding actions work. The human ships fired a different kind of weapon. Hundreds of small pods launched from the fleet, each containing a single human Marine in powered armor. The pods used minimal guidance, just cold gas thrusters and the Marine's own reactions. To the Vrexians, it looked like suicide. The fighters opened fire on the pods, destroying dozens. But hundreds more got through. Impossible to track and target individually. They slammed into Vrexian capital ships at high speed, magnetic clamps engaging to hold them to the hull. Sir, they're attaching to our ships, the sensor officer reported in confusion. What are they doing? The Marines used plasma cutters to burn through hull plating, then crawled inside like parasites entering a host. Within minutes, Vrexian ships began reporting intruders on board, attacking critical systems and fighting hand-to-hand with security forces. One Marine, Sergeant Maria Santos, found herself facing 6 Vrexian soldiers in a corridor. The Vrexians were tall and strong by galactic standards, armed with energy weapons. They opened fire confidently. Maria's armor absorbed the shots. She crossed the distance in 3 strides, moving with speed no one her size should possess. She struck the first Vrexian with a powered fist, sending him flying into a bulkhead. The second tried to retreat, but she grabbed him by the arm and threw him into his companions. The remaining 3 stared in shock. Surrender, Maria said through her helmet speakers, her voice distorted and menacing. I don't want to hurt you more than necessary. They surrendered. Executor Vrax realized his fleet was being dismantled. The humans fought with a ferocity and ruthlessness he had never encountered. They didn't follow the standard rules of engagement. They didn't give warnings. They didn't focus on disabling ships humanely. They just attacked with overwhelming force, expecting victory and accepting nothing less. All ships retreat, Vrax ordered. Jump to secondary rally point. His fleet began to disengage, trying to create distance for jump space entry, but Admiral Chen had anticipated this. Broadcast on all frequencies, Sarah ordered. Let everyone hear this. She activated the comm channel herself. Her voice, hard and cold, echoed across the system. Attention, Vrexian fleet. You attacked people who called for help. You killed civilians. You thought you could do this without consequences. You were wrong. There will be no retreat. There will be no escape. Surrender now or be destroyed. Vrax felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Genuine fear. Who do they think they are? Sir, multiple human ships are positioning themselves between us and the jump points. They're blocking our escape routes. Then we fight through them. But the Vrexian fleet had already lost a quarter of its ships. The human vessels were damaged but still fighting, their redundant systems keeping weapons operational even when half the ship was destroyed. And the Marines were still inside Vrexian ships, wreaking havoc. One by one, Vrexian captains began to surrender. Sarah had her ships disable their drives but otherwise let them live. She took prisoners, treated their wounded, and showed mercy to those who yielded. Vrax watched his fleet collapse around him. The humans had shattered in one engagement what had taken him months to build, and they had done it with a smaller force, outdated technology, and impossible tactics. Signal our surrender, Vrax said quietly. This battle is over. On the Calithian orbital station, Ambassador Kale watched the battle with tears streaming down his face. The humans had arrived, fought against impossible odds, and won. More than that, they had kept their promise. Help had come. Get me a comm channel to the human flagship, Kale said. I need to thank them. Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but satisfied. Ambassador Kale, I presume? Yes, Admiral. I don't know how to thank you. You saved my people. Sarah smiled slightly. You called for help, Ambassador. Where we come from, you answer when someone calls for help. That's what makes us human. The galaxy fears you, Kale said softly. But I think they fear the wrong thing. What do you mean? They fear your strength. But they should fear what happens when people ignore cries for help. That's the real danger. Kale looked at the human admiral with newfound respect. Thank you, Admiral Chen. Thank you for hearing us. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so tense. Councillor Vexen stood at the central podium, displaying footage from the Battle of Kaleth on screens visible to all 200 member species. The images showed human ships tearing through Vrexian forces with brutal efficiency. They showed Marines boarding enemy vessels in individual drop pods. They showed a style of warfare the galaxy hadn't witnessed in thousands of years. This is unacceptable, declared Councillor Mareth, their tank bubbling with agitation. The humans have emerged from quarantine and engaged in military action without council authorization. They must be ordered to withdraw immediately and return to their system. And if they refuse? Asked a councillor from the Rim worlds. Who will enforce this order? Silence. Everyone had seen what happened to the Vrexian fleet. No one wanted to face human weapons. Perhaps we should consider dialogue instead of demands, suggested Councillor Therex, a diplomatic species known for moderation. The humans did respond to a legitimate distress call that we chose to ignore. They acted when we did not. They violated the quarantine, Vexen insisted. The quarantine exists for good reason. The humans are dangerous. The Vrexians were dangerous too, Therex countered. They had been conquering systems for years while we debated and did nothing. At least the humans stopped them. The chamber erupted in argument. Species from the core worlds demanded the humans be contained. Species from the Rim worlds, who had suffered from aggressive neighbors while the council watched passively, were less certain. Some even quietly cheered that someone had finally stood up to the Vrexian dominion. In the Calethian system, Admiral Sarah Chen faced a different kind of battle. Her engineers were working alongside Calithian technicians to repair damaged infrastructure. Human medical teams were treating wounded civilians, and her Marines were helping maintain order on the ground. The cultural differences were immediately apparent. Calithian buildings were light and airy, designed for their lower gravity and peaceful society. Human equipment looked bulky and excessive by comparison. Even simple things like doorways were a problem. Humans had to duck to fit through spaces the Calithians considered normal. It's like they built everything out of tissue paper, commented Commander Park, examining a Calithian power relay. This housing wouldn't survive a stiff breeze on Earth. They never needed it to, Sarah replied. Their world doesn't try to kill them daily. They could focus on art and beauty instead of survival. Ambassador Kale approached, accompanied by a Calithian engineer. Admiral, I wanted to introduce you to Master Builder Soren. He's been coordinating with your engineering teams. The Calithian engineer looked exhausted but fascinated. Admiral Chen, your technology is remarkable. Primitive by council standards, yes, but so robust. I watched your engineers repair a fusion conduit using hand tools and sheer determination. It should have been impossible, Sarah smiled. We learned to fix things under pressure. On Earth, if your equipment fails, you might die. So we build equipment that doesn't fail, and we learn to repair it when it does anyway. I would like to visit your world someday, Soren said wistfully, though I'm told the gravity alone would kill me. We have habitats designed for lower gravity species, Sarah assured him. You'd be welcome, a communication officer interrupted. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding we withdraw from Calithian space and return to the Sol system immediately. Sarah read the message carefully. It was full of diplomatic language, but the core message was clear. Go home and stay there. Denied, send a response. We will withdraw when the Calithians are safe and not before. We don't abandon allies, Admiral, Kyle said quietly. You're risking war with the Council for us. Why? Sarah looked at the Calithian ambassador. He was smaller than a human, more fragile, with large eyes that showed his every emotion. His people had been dying and the Council had debated. Because someone needed to help you. Because doing the right thing matters more than following rules that protect no one. Over the next weeks, something unexpected happened. Other species began sending distress signals toward Earth. A mining colony under pirate attack. A trade station threatened by raiders. Small world facing famine after their supply lines were cut by territorial disputes. Each time the Council debated and delayed, the humans responded. Sarah found herself commanding a growing fleet as Earth sent reinforcements. Human ships began patrolling the outer rim, protecting species the Council had forgotten. And everywhere they went, the response was the same. Fear at first, then gratitude, then respect. On Earth, the President addressed the United Nations. We have a choice to make. The galaxy fears us. They see us as dangerous primitives, but those who we've helped see us differently. They see us as protectors, as friends. I propose we embrace this role. Let Earth be the shield for those who cannot defend themselves. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not return to isolation. In a detention facility on the Indomitable, Executor Vrak sat in a cell designed for humans. It was too large for him, too heavily built, too everything, like the humans themselves. A guard brought him meals regularly. The food was strange but adequate. And twice a day, a human psychologist named Dr. Sarah Kim came to talk with him. Why don't you execute me? Vrax asked during one session. I would have executed human prisoners. Dr. Kim studied him thoughtfully. Because we don't believe in executing prisoners of war. You surrendered. You're no longer a threat. What purpose would killing you serve? Revenge, justice, deterrence. We have a saying on Earth, Dr. Kim replied. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. You attacked the Calethians because you could. If we attack you because we can, how are we different? You are different. You're stronger, more dangerous. You could rule the galaxy if you wished. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to help people who need help. She paused. Why did you attack the Calethians? What did they do to you? Vrax was silent for a long moment. Nothing. They did nothing. We attacked because the Council wouldn't stop us. Because we were strong and they were weak, and that's how the galaxy works. Not anymore, Dr. Kim said softly. The galaxy is changing. You helped change it by showing everyone what happens when the strong prey on the weak unchecked. And we changed it by showing that strength can be used to protect instead of to conquer. Vrax thought about this. His entire life had been built on the belief that might made right. That the strong took what they wanted from the weak. But the humans were the strongest species he'd ever encountered. And they were using that strength differently. It confused him. But it also made him wonder if there might be a better way. Ambassador Kale received another transmission from the Council. This one was different. It wasn't a demand or a threat. It was a request for negotiation. The Council wants to meet with Admiral Chen, Kyle told Sarah. They want to discuss Earth's role in galactic affairs. Sarah smiled. Tell them I'll come. But I'm bringing a proposal they won't like. What proposal? The Galactic Council has failed to protect its member species. The Council needs reform, and Earth is going to help them understand what protection really means. Kale felt excitement and fear in equal measure. The humans were about to shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The Council had stood for 10,000 years, growing complacent and ineffective. Now humanity was going to force them to change. The galaxy will never be the same, Kale said. Good, Sarah replied. It needed to change. Sometimes it takes newcomers to see what's wrong with the old ways. Across the rim world, species watched and waited. The humans had proven they could fight. Now they would see if humans could build something better than what existed before. If they could create a galaxy where calling for help actually meant something. The Deathworlders had arrived. And the galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous thing about monsters is that they refuse to let evil go unpunished. The attack came without warning, just as the Vrexians had taught the galaxy to expect. But this time it wasn't the Vrexian Dominion. It was a coalition of 6 aggressive empires, all of whom had been expanding unchecked while the Council debated. They saw the human presence in the Calithian system as a threat to their own conquests. If humanity could stop the Vrexians, they might stop others too. Better to eliminate the threat now before the humans became established. 2,000 warships dropped into the Calithian system simultaneously, surrounding Admiral Chen's fleet from all directions. It was a force large enough to conquer entire sectors. Against 47 human ships, it should have been overwhelming. Admiral, we're being hailed by the Coalition flagship, reported the communications officer. They're demanding our immediate surrender. Sarah looked at the tactical display. Her fleet was outnumbered more than 40-1. A few months ago, she would have been terrified. But that was before she learned how the galaxy fought its wars. Open a channel. Let's talk to them. The Coalition commander appeared on screen. He was a Thoraxian, a species that looked like an upright mantis with armor plating and multiple eyes. Human commander, I am War Leader Kravex. You are surrounded by overwhelming force. Surrender your vessels and return to your quarantine zone. Refuse and you will be destroyed. I'm Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Terran Defense Council, Sarah replied calmly. You've made a mistake, War Leader. You should leave while you still can. Kravex's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. You have 47 primitive ships. We have 2,000 advanced warships from 6 stellar nations. The mathematics are simple. You're right about the math, Sarah agreed. But you're wrong about one thing. These aren't all our ships. This was just the Rapid Response Fleet. Behind her, the communications officer was sending a coded signal toward Earth. A signal that had been prepared the moment humanity decided to stay in galactic space. An activation signal. Across the galaxy, jump space began to tear open, not in one location but in hundreds. Human vessels poured through, responding to the emergency beacon from the Calithian system. The United Terran Defense Fleet, the force Earth had been building for 50 years in preparation for the galaxy's return, finally revealed itself. 500 heavy cruisers, 200 carriers, 50 dreadnoughts that massed more than entire galactic fleets, and supporting them, thousands of smaller vessels from corvettes to destroyers. Humanity's full military might designed and built by a species that knew extinction could come at any moment. Impossible, Kravex breathed, watching his sensors. Where did they all come from? Earth, Sarah said simply. Did you really think 47 ships were our entire fleet? We're from a death world, remember? We prepare for the worst. Always. The human fleet formed a perfect sphere around the Calithian system, trapping the Coalition forces inside. Admiral Chen broadcast on all frequencies. Coalition forces, you came here to eliminate what you saw as a threat. Let me show you what a real threat looks like. The human dreadnoughts fired first. Railguns designed to crack planets launched projectiles at incredible velocities. Coalition ships that tried to dodge found the tungsten rods tracking them, adjusting trajectory with small course corrections. Energy shields that had seemed impenetrable shattered like glass. Then the carriers deployed their fighters. But unlike galactic fighters that danced and dodged, human fighters were small, heavily armed, and operated by AI systems designed to make split-second decisions. They moved in coordinated swarms, overwhelming enemy defenses through sheer numbers and relentless aggression, and the human Marines launched their boarding pods again. Thousands of them, each containing a soldier in powered armor that could survive in vacuum, underwater, or in toxic atmospheres. The pods swarmed enemy capital ships like locusts. War leader Kravex tried to rally his forces. All ships focus fire on their dreadnoughts. Concentrate weapons. The coalition fleet obeyed, directing thousands of particle beams and plasma torpedoes at the nearest human dreadnought. The massive vessel's shields flared, then failed. Energy weapons tore into its armor, and the dreadnought kept fighting. Its armor was half melted, entire sections were exposed to vacuum, and fires raged through internal compartments. But its weapons still fired. Its engines still burned, and its crew still fought because human engineering didn't design ships that gave up easily. How are they still operational? Kravex demanded. We've hit them with enough firepower to destroy a moon. His tactical officer brought up analysis of the human ships. Sir, their vessels have multiple redundant systems. If one reactor fails, 6 more are online. If command is destroyed, secondary bridges take over. If main weapons are offline, backup weapons activate. It's excessive, wasteful, and incredibly effective. Sarah watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The coalition was learning what the Vrexians had learned. Humans didn't fight fair, didn't follow galactic norms, and didn't stop until the threat was eliminated. They were predators from a world of predators, and they had brought those instincts to space warfare. But Sarah also knew something else. She knew humans weren't just destroyers, they were builders too. Communications open a channel to all coalition ships. Channel open, Admiral. Coalition forces, this is Admiral Chen. You came here to destroy us. You failed, but I'm offering you a choice. Continue fighting and be destroyed, or surrender and live. We don't want to kill you. We want you to stop attacking innocent species. Surrender now and you'll be treated fairly. Why should we trust you? Kravex transmitted back. You're Deathworlders, killers. Yes, we are, Sarah agreed. But we're also the species that answered the Calithian distress call when no one else would. We're the species currently protecting a dozen systems that the Council abandoned. We kill when we must, but we prefer to protect. The choice is yours. One by one, coalition ships began to surrender. Not all of them. Some fought until they were destroyed, too proud or too afraid to yield. But most surrendered, and Sarah was true to her word. Human ships disabled their drives but didn't destroy them. Human Marines took their crews prisoner but treated them well. And human medical teams even helped repair the most damaged vessels so their crews wouldn't die in space. Ambassador Kale watched the battle from the orbital station, stunned by the scale of what he was witnessing. The humans had revealed military power far beyond anything the galaxy suspected. They could have conquered the Council worlds if they wanted. Instead, they were using that power to defend others. They really are different, Kale said to Commander Thera. They could rule us all, but they choose not to. Perhaps that's why they should rule, Thera replied thoughtfully. The ones who seek power least are often those most qualified to wield it. After the battle, Sarah traveled to the Galactic Council homeworld for the first time. She brought with her Ambassador Kale, Executor Vrax, who had agreed to testify, and a dozen other witnesses from species humanity had protected. The council chamber was massive, designed to accommodate representatives from 200 species. Sarah stood at the central podium, aware that billions across the galaxy were watching this moment. Counselor Vexen spoke first. Admiral Chen, humanity has demonstrated considerable military power, but power alone does not grant you authority in council matters. What gives you the right to dictate changes to a system that has existed for 10,000 years? Sarah looked at the council, at species who lived in comfort and safety while others suffered. The right of those who answer when others call for help. The right of those who stand between the weak and the strong. You ask what gives us authority? I ask what gave you the right to ignore the Calithians when they called for help? What gave you the right to debate while they died? The council must consider all perspectives, Vexian protested. Hasty action leads to worse problems. Your inaction led to worse problems. The Vrexians, the coalition that just attacked, the pirates raiding the rim worlds. All of this happened because you talked instead of acting. Sarah pulled up data on the main display. In the past century, 43 species have gone extinct or been conquered while under council protection. Protection that never came. The chamber went silent. Sarah continued. Humanity proposes a new agreement. The Deathworld Accord. Any species can send a distress call. Any species that can help must respond. The council can debate later, but protection comes first. Earth will enforce this accord for those who cannot enforce it themselves. You want to make humanity the galaxy's military, Counselor Marith observed. That concentrates too much power in one species. No, Sarah corrected. We want every species to be willing to help each other. But until that day comes, yes, Earth will be the shield for those who need one. Because we learned something important on our Deathworld. In the worst environments, species either learn to protect each other or they go extinct. Ambassador Kell stepped forward. The Calithian Republic supports the Deathworld Accord. The humans saved us when no one else would. They ask for no territory, no tribute, no subjugation. They only ask that we help each other. How can we refuse? One by one, other species stepped forward. The Rim-worlders who had been abandoned. The small nations who lived in fear of stronger neighbors. The trade federations tired of pirate attacks. They all supported the accord. The council had no choice but to accept. The alternative was admitting the council itself was useless. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Human ships patrolled the space lanes protecting traders from pirates. Human marines trained local defense forces on dozens of worlds. Human engineers helped repair war damage on planets the council had written off as lost causes. And human diplomats worked tirelessly to resolve conflicts before they became wars. Not everyone loved humanity. Some feared them. Some resented their power. But everyone knew that if they called for help, the humans would come. In the Calithian system, now a hub of human galactic cooperation, Ambassador Kale stood with Admiral Sarah Chen at a memorial for those who died in the Vrexian invasion. The memorial was built in human style, solid and enduring, designed to last forever. Your people changed everything, Kale said softly. The galaxy will never be the same. We just did what anyone should do, Sarah replied. We heard someone calling for help and we answered. That's what makes you special. Most species wouldn't have answered. Most species would have calculated the cost and decided it wasn't worth it. Sarah smiled. On Earth we have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We decided we wouldn't be the ones doing nothing. Thousands of light years away on a small planet facing invasion by slavers, a desperate transmission went out into space. A cry for help from people who thought no one would hear. Within minutes, a response came back. Message received. Help is coming! Hold on. The Deathworlders had heard another call, and once again, they were coming to answer it. 'Cause that's what humans did. That's what made them human. They heard the desperate, the afraid, and the hopeless calling out into the darkness. And they always answered. The stars looked different from the Bridge of the Defiance. Captain William Carter stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the vast emptiness of space through the main viewport. Today would change human history forever. After centuries of wondering if they were alone in the universe, humanity had their answer. They were not alone, and today they would meet the most powerful civilization known to exist. How long until we reach the meeting point? William asked, his voice calm despite the tension in his shoulders. Lieutenant Mary Jones checked her console. 20 minutes, sir. The Zarkonian vessel is already waiting. William nodded. The small fleet of 5 human ships represented the best technology Earth had to offer. Still, intelligence reports suggested the Zarkonian Empire was centuries ahead. Their empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy and included over 30 different alien species. Admiral Brooks is requesting to speak with you, said Communications Officer Peter Johnson. Put her through, William replied. Admiral Susan Brooks appeared on the main screen. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and worry lines creased her forehead. Captain Carter, have your team reviewed the first contact protocols? Yes, Admiral. Lieutenant Alan Foster has prepared extensive linguistic and cultural briefings. Dr. Olivia Mason has medical and biological contingencies covered. We're as ready as we can be. Susan's expression remained serious. I don't need to tell you how important this meeting is. The United Earth Coalition is counting on us to make a good impression. We need allies, not enemies. Understood, Admiral. We'll make Earth proud. After the call ended, William turned to his first officer, Commander Jack Hill. Jack, what's your gut feeling about all this? Jack frowned. Honestly, it seems too good to be true. The Zarkonians reach out to us, a species they've never met, and immediately offer technological exchange. I share your concerns, William said quietly, but we have our orders. As the Defiance approached the meeting point, They got their first clear view of the Zarkonian flagship. It was massive, at least 5 times larger than Earth's biggest vessel. Its sleek, curved design suggested advanced engineering beyond human understanding. Smaller ships surrounded it like moons orbiting a planet. "They're hailing us," Peter announced. "On screen," William ordered, straightening his uniform. The alien that appeared was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was pale blue with faint, scale-like patterns. Large black eyes studied William with unsettling intelligence. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am High Commander Vexlar of the Zarkonian Empire. We welcome you to Galactic Society." Alan Foster stepped forward, handling the translation equipment. Though the Zarkonians had provided translation software, he had insisted on bringing human versions as backup. "High Commander, I am Captain William Carter of the United Earth Coalition. We are honored to meet you and look forward to peaceful relations between our peoples." The meeting moved to the Zarkonian flagship. William led a small team including Susan, Alan, Olivia, and Security Chief Greg Nelson. The interior of the alien ship was breathtaking. Corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked, gravity that adjusted perfectly to their comfort, and technology that appeared to operate on thought alone. In a vast chamber with walls displaying real-time star maps, Vexler and his advisors waited. Among them were representatives of other species, evidence of the Empire's diversity. As the diplomatic talks began, William noticed how the Zarkonians seemed particularly interested in human biology. They asked numerous questions about Earth's environment, human physical capabilities, and social structures. "Your species evolved on a high-gravity world with significant atmospheric oxygen," one Zarkonian scientist noted. "This explains your robust physical structure." During a brief recess, Olivia pulled William aside. "Captain, they've been scanning us constantly since we arrived. Not just passive scans, they're taking detailed biological readings." "Curiosity about a new species?" William suggested, though he felt uneasy. "Perhaps," Olivia replied, "but they seem especially interested in our stress responses and muscle density." Alan joined them, looking troubled. "There's something off about their translation matrix. I'm detecting subtle discrepancies, words with multiple meanings being consistently interpreted in ways that favor their perspective." William absorbed this information with growing concern. "Keep watching, but don't show alarm. We need this alliance." The talks continued through what felt like Earth's standard day. The Zarkonians offered impressive technological exchanges, faster-than-light drive improvements, energy generation systems, and medical advancements. In return, they requested access to Earth's natural resources and permission to establish bases in the solar system. When the human delegation finally returned to their ship, William called an immediate secure meeting. "Assessment?" he asked his team. Greg spoke first. "Their security is impressive but focused on containment rather than protection. Every room had multiple hidden barriers that could be activated instantly." Olivia opened her datapad. "Their scanning was excessive, sir. They now have complete biological profiles of every human on our team. I also noticed they were particularly interested when I mentioned human adaptability to different environments." "The translation issues continued," Alan added. "For example, when they described cooperative mining operations, the original Zarkonian phrase could also mean extraction of valuable assets." Susan frowned deeply. "My military assessment is that their ship has significantly more weapons capability than initially appeared. Those sensor arrays are disguised weapons platforms." William took a deep breath. "So we all feel the same. There's something they're not telling us." The journey back to Earth was tense. William spent hours reviewing recordings of the meeting, looking for clues he might have missed. The Zarkonian offers were generous, too generous. Why would an advanced empire share so much with a species they just met? When they arrived at Earth, the United Earth Coalition Council was eager for their report. Director Nathan Reeves of Earth Intelligence met them before the formal debriefing. "We intercepted some Zarkonian communications while you were gone," Nathan said without preamble. "Our linguists only understand portions, but enough to be concerned. They referred to Earth as acquisition target and humans as viable labor. Resource. William's heart sank. They're not looking for allies. They're looking for conquest. It appears so, Nathan confirmed. The Council is divided. Some believe we should accept Zarkonian technology regardless of their intentions, to better prepare ourselves. That would be a mistake, Susan said firmly. If they're planning to conquer us, accepting their technology means accepting their Trojan horses. The debate raged through Earth's leadership for weeks. William testified about his misgivings, but many counselors were seduced by the promise of advanced technology. Humanity had always dreamed of the stars. Now the path seemed open before them. The decision came too late. 57 days after first contact, the long-range outpost near Neptune detected a massive fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel. It wasn't the diplomatic vessel promised by the Zarkonians. It was an invasion force, and Hope Colony, humanity's furthest settlement, went silent within hours. The Empire's first war with humans had begun. Hope Colony shook as another explosion hit the outer defense grid. Major Patricia Rodriguez wiped dust from her eyes and looked at the damage report on her tablet. It wasn't good. 3 of the 5 defense stations were already gone. The colony, home to nearly 10,000 humans on a planet 12 light-years from Earth, had never expected to be a battlefield. How many ships are still ready for evacuation? Patricia asked her second-in-command, Lieutenant Frank Howard. 7 transports, ma'am. They can take about 6,000 people if we pack them tight. Patricia closed her eyes briefly. Not enough for everyone. Begin loading civilians immediately. Priority to children, medical personnel, and scientists. Outside the command bunker, chaos ruled. The Zarkonian ships had appeared without warning 3 hours ago. Their weapons tore through Hope Colony's defenses like paper. Now they're ground. Forces were landing. Strange mechanical walkers and blue-skinned soldiers in advanced armor. In orbit, Zarkonian General Thrax watched the battle from his command ship. Next to him stood his science officer, Kelvar. The human resistance is stronger than expected, Kelvar noted, studying the battle data. They've already destroyed 2 of our landing craft. Thrax made a dismissive gesture. Primitive weapons getting lucky shots. This colony will fall before the day ends. What matters is collecting enough specimens for study. On the ground, combat engineer Lisa Warren worked frantically to keep the colony's power grid functioning. Without power, the evacuation ships couldn't launch. Her hands moved quickly over the controls as sweat dripped down her face. "Lisa, we need to go," shouted her assistant Ben Porter. "Zarkonians are less than a mile from this facility." 2 more minutes, Lisa replied without looking up. "I need to reroute the main power conduits or the launch bays will be useless." In another part of the colony, communications officer Kevin Collins helped terrified civilians board an evacuation ship. The Zarkonian bombardment had destroyed the main residential dome, forcing people to run through the thin atmosphere of the planet with emergency breath masks. "Keep moving," Kevin urged, lifting a small child into the ship's airlock. "We need to fill this transport to capacity." An explosion rocked the ground nearby. Kevin looked up to see 3 Zarkonian walkers approaching, their weapons charging. He pulled out his service pistol, knowing it would do little against the alien machines. "Get that ship sealed and launched now," he shouted to the pilot inside. The transport's engines flared to life as Kevin and a handful of colony security forces fired at the approaching walkers. Their shots bounced harmlessly off the alien armor. Kevin kept firing until something hot struck his side, and darkness took him. Back at the command bunker, Patricia received word that the 4th evacuation ship had successfully launched. "That's nearly 4,000 civilians safely away," Frank reported. "But the Zarkonians have taken the South Launch Complex. We've only got 1 operating launch site left." Patricia nodded grimly. "Have all remaining civilians redirect to the North Complex. Security teams will create a defensive corridor." She activated her comlink. "This is Major Rodriguez to all military personnel. Our mission is now clear. Hold the North Launch Complex at all costs to allow remaining civilian ships to escape." In the power facility, Lisa finally completed her work. The rerouted power lines would keep the North Launch Complex functioning for at least 2 more hours. She wiped her dirty hands on her uniform. Done. Now we can go. As she and Ben rushed toward the exit, the building shook violently. Part of the ceiling collapsed, crushing Ben beneath it. Lisa cried out, rushing to help him, but it was too late. His eyes stared blankly at nothing. With tears streaming down her face, Lisa grabbed his data tablet and her own equipment bag. The tablet contained all the sensor readings they had collected during the attack, valuable information about Zarkonian weapons and tactics. She had to get it back to Earth. The path to the North Launch Complex was hell. Zarkonian soldiers swept through the colony streets, capturing humans when possible and killing those who resisted. Lisa kept to the maintenance tunnels, moving beneath the main battle. Twice she had to hide as alien search parties passed. When she finally reached the launch complex, only one ship remained, a small research vessel designed for a crew of 6. "You're the last one," said the security guard at the entrance. His uniform was covered in blood and he could barely stand. "Everyone else who made it is already aboard the last transport. It launched 5 minutes ago." "What about the major? The rest of the command staff?" The guard shook his head. "They held the line at Section 4. None of them made it." Lisa swallowed hard and boarded the small ship. Her engineering training included basic pilot certification, enough to get the ship into space. Whether she could navigate all the way back to Earth was another question. In his command ship, General Thrax received news of the human transports escaping the planet. "Should we pursue?" asked his weapons officer. Thrax considered for a moment. "No. Those ships are slow and unarmed. Our fleet in the Earth system will intercept them. Focus on securing the colony and processing the humans we've captured." Among those captured was Kevin Collins, barely alive from his wounds. Zarkonian medics treated him, not from compassion, but to ensure he survived for questioning. When he regained consciousness, he found himself in a sterile white room, secured to a table. "The human is awake," a Zarkonian voice said. "Begin the interrogation." Hours of painful questioning followed. The Zarkonians wanted to know about Earth's defenses, human military capabilities, and government structure. Kevin told them nothing. Useful, despite the pain. "Humans are more resilient than expected," noted the Zarkonian scientist observing the interrogation. "Their pain threshold exceeds our initial estimates." Meanwhile, Lisa managed to pilot her small ship out of the planet's atmosphere. Zarkonian ships were still in orbit, but they seemed focused on landing more troops rather than watching for escaping vessels. Her ship's small size helped. It barely registered on most scanners. As she prepared for the faster-than-light jump that would begin her journey to Earth, Lisa looked back at the planet she had called home for 3 years. Fires were visible, even from space, marking the locations of Hope Colony's once thriving habitation domes. "They'll pay for this," she whispered, activating the FTL drive. On the surface, the Zarkonians began establishing their forward base. General Thrax surveyed the captured colony equipment with disappointment. "Their technology is even more primitive than we thought," he told his officers. "Their weapons barely damaged our armor. Yet they managed to evacuate most of their people before we could stop them," his second-in-command pointed out. "And our casualties were higher than projected." Thrax waved this concern away. "Minor setbacks. The humans fought desperately because they had nowhere to retreat. When our main fleet reaches Earth, they will surrender quickly." But deep in the holding cells of the Zarkonian base, Kevin Collins had begun working on the restraints that held him. The aliens had underestimated human determination and human ingenuity. He had noticed a flaw in the cell's security system during his trips to interrogation. It would take time, but he would escape. And when he did, the Zarkonians would learn that humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. Lisa Warren's small research vessel limped toward Earth after 23 days of difficult travel. The ship wasn't designed for long journeys, and she had needed to make constant repairs to keep it functioning. Food and water ran low. Sleep came in short bursts between system alarms. When Earth's defense fleet finally appeared on her sensors, Lisa cried with relief. She had made it. Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Defense Command. State your identity and purpose, came a voice over the communication system. This is Lisa Warren, combat engineer from Hope Colony, she replied, her voice cracking. I have important data on the Zarkonian attack, and I am the only survivor. Within hours, Lisa found herself in a secure room at Earth Defense Headquarters. Military analysts Ryan Cooper and Grace Phillips listened intently as she described the fall of Hope Colony. Ryan, a tall man with serious eyes, checked the data on Ben's tablet as Lisa spoke. Grace, whose quick mind had earned her a top position despite her young age, took detailed notes. The Zarkonians targeted our communication systems first, Lisa explained. Then power. Their ground troops used some kind of neural link. They moved too perfectly together to be acting independently. Ryan nodded. That matches what we've observed in their ship movements. The entire Zarkonian fleet operates like a single organism. Which makes no sense biologically, Grace added. No species should be able to coordinate that perfectly without some kind of technological assistance. Lisa pushed the tablet toward them. That's why I risked everything to bring this back. Ben was recording sensor data throughout the attack. He thought something looked strange about their communication patterns. Ryan connected the tablet to the main system. Data flowed across the large screen on the wall. Complex patterns of energy signatures appeared, showing communication between Zarkonian ships and ground forces. Grace stared at the screen, her eyes widening. Wait. Run that sequence again. Ryan replayed the data. Grace pointed to a repeating pattern. There. See it? Their communications aren't random or even complex, they repeat. Every 67 seconds, the exact same pattern. That's impossible, Ryan said. Unless it's encrypted using a fixed algorithm, Grace finished. An algorithm we might be able to crack. The discovery was significant enough to bring Professor Daniel Martinez to the meeting. As Earth's leading expert on quantum computing, his insights were crucial. The professor studied the data carefully, his fingers drumming on the table. The Zarkonians use quantum entanglement for instant communication across vast distances, he explained. But what's interesting is they're using predictable encryption patterns. It's like they've never worried about anyone breaking their codes before. Because no one ever has, Ryan suggested. They've conquered 30 species without facing serious resistance. Daniel nodded. Their overconfidence is our opportunity. I believe we can create a virus that could infiltrate their neural network. And do what? Lisa asked. Disrupt it completely, Daniel replied. If their perfect coordination is their strength, chaos would be their weakness. While this plan developed on Earth, Kevin Collins was executing his own plan for escape. 3. Weeks of careful observation had revealed the patterns of the guards. The Zarkonians were creatures of habit, changing shifts at exactly the same time every day. Kevin had also discovered that the restraints holding him weakened when the cell's power cycled for daily diagnostics. It wasn't much, but it gave him a few seconds to work the bonds looser each day. Today would be his chance. He had weakened the restraints enough that one good pull during the power cycle might break them. And he had a plan for what came next. The lights flickered as the power cycle began. Kevin pulled with all his strength. Pain shot through his wrists as the restraints cut into his skin, but he kept pulling. With a snap, his right hand came free. Moving quickly, he released his other restraints and moved to the door. The guard would arrive in exactly 2 minutes for his daily interrogation. Kevin positioned himself behind the door and waited. When the Zarkonian guard entered, Kevin struck. The guard was stronger, but Kevin had surprise and desperation on his side. After a brief struggle, Kevin stood over the unconscious alien, now wearing his armor and carrying his weapon. The Zarkonian base had been built on top of Hope Colony's original structures. Kevin knew these buildings well. He made his way through the corridors, his stolen armor hiding his identity. His goal was clear: the communication center. Back on Earth, Professor Daniel had developed his virus. The elegant code would spread through the Zarkonian neural network, scrambling commands and creating false orders. But there was a problem. We need to deliver it directly to a main Zarkonian command ship, Daniel explained to the Earth Defense Council. Their network is isolated from external signals to prevent exactly this kind of attack. Admiral Gary Peterson, now in charge of Earth's defense, looked grim. So we need to get close enough to physically connect to their systems? Yes, Daniel confirmed. Someone has to carry this virus to their command ship and upload it manually. A suicide mission, someone muttered. Lisa spoke up from her seat at the back of the room. Not necessarily. I've studied their ships from the Hope Colony attack. Their ventilation systems have external access points. A small team could potentially infiltrate through those. Regardless, we need to act quickly, Ryan said. Our long-range scanners show the main Zarkonian invasion fleet is only 2 weeks from reaching Earth. On the captured Hope Colony, Kevin reached the communication center. He had to move carefully. As a low-ranking guard, his presence here would raise questions. He waited until the room was nearly empty during shift change, then slipped inside. The key Zarkonian communication system was alien, but Kevin's training helped him understand its basic functions. He couldn't send a detailed message to Earth. The Zarkonians would detect it instantly, but he could sabotage the system. Kevin worked quickly, rerouting connections and overriding safety protocols. When he finished, he activated the emergency test sequence, a standard procedure that sent a powerful signal burst to all Zarkonian ships in the system. Except Kevin had modified the signal. Instead of a simple test, it would overwhelm and damage the communication arrays of any ship that received it. The disruption would be temporary, but it might give Earth forces a brief advantage. Alarms blared as the system detected the unauthorized test. Kevin knew he had minutes at most before the entire base locked down. He ran for the landing bay where small scout ships were kept. On Earth, preparations for a desperate defense continued. The virus was loaded onto specialized data drives. A volunteer team was assembled for the dangerous mission to deliver it to the Zarkonian command ship. Commander Eric Wilson would lead the team. As an expert in stealth operations, he was the natural choice. Weapons specialist Melissa Garcia would provide tactical support. And despite objections, Lisa Warren insisted on joining them. I know their ships, she argued. I've seen how they operate up close. You need me. As the team trained, Earth's scientists made another breakthrough. Grace Phillips noticed something in the data from Hope Colony that everyone else had missed. The Zarkonian neural network doesn't just coordinate their forces, she explained to Ryan. It connects to their ship's life support systems. If we could access that, Ryan understood immediately. We could threaten their entire fleet at once. Small alarm beeped on Grace's computer. She frowned and checked the notification. We're receiving a transmission from a ship approaching the outer defense perimeter. It's using an old Hope Colony frequency. On the main screen, a tired, bruised face appeared. Kevin Collins had survived and escaped, and he brought more than just himself. I've got a Zarkonian scout ship, he told them, complete with their current security codes and navigation data, and I know exactly how their base on Hope Colony is structured. Daniel looked at the new information with growing excitement. This changes everything. With these codes, we might be able to get our team directly onto their command ship without detection. For the first time since the Zarkonian attack began, a feeling of hope spread through Earth's defense headquarters. They still faced a powerful enemy with superior technology. The coming battle would cost many lives. But now they had a chance. Their arrogance will be their downfall, Admiral Peterson said as he reviewed the final battle plans. They think we're primitives. They expect us to surrender or die. They don't understand what humans do when cornered. And what's that? Asked a young officer. The Admiral's face hardened. We fight harder than anyone expects. And we never, ever give up. The day of humanity's counterattack arrived faster than anyone wanted. The Zarkonian invasion fleet had accelerated unexpectedly, giving Earth less preparation time than planned. Admiral Gary Peterson stood in the command center, watching as the final ships moved into position. Earth had assembled every available vessel, a mix of military ships, armed civilian craft, and hastily retrofitted transport vessels. It's not enough, Gary thought, but kept his face calm for the officers around him. Against the Zarkonian armada, Earth's fleet looked like toys facing giants. All ships report ready for Operation Trojan, announced his communications officer. Gary nodded. Send the go-ahead signal, and may God help us all. Aboard the stealth insertion ship Shadow, Commander Eric Wilson ran through final equipment checks with his team. The small vessel had been modified with Zarkonian technology taken from Kevin Collins's stolen scout ship. If everything worked as planned, the Zarkonians would see them as one of their own support vessels. Weapons specialist Melissa Garcia secured the last of her explosives. If we need these, it means everything has gone wrong. Then let's make sure we don't need them, Eric replied. He turned to Lisa Warren. Are you certain about the access point? Lisa pointed to the holographic display showing the Zarkonian command ship. Here, near the rear propulsion section, environmental control access. Their security will be minimal because no one could survive the radiation levels outside the ship without protection. Except us, Eric said with a grim smile. Because we have their own shielding technology. The fourth member of their team, computer expert Joe Lewis, held up the small device containing Professor Daniel's virus. One upload from this and their entire network crashes. In the Proxima Centauri system, 12 light-years from Earth, the main battle fleet waited. This would be a coordinated attack. While the stealth team infiltrated the Zarkonian command ship, Earth's forces would engage the invaders directly. The goal wasn't victory. That was impossible against such odds. They just needed to hold long enough for the virus to be deployed. Admiral Peterson gave the final address to the fleet. Men and women of Earth, today, we face an enemy that believes we are weak, that we are primitive, that we will surrender rather than fight. They are wrong. Humanity has faced extinction before. Disease, climate change, our own weapons. Each time we survived by doing what humans do best, adapting and overcoming. Today will be no different. The Shadow launched first, slipping away quietly while the main fleet prepared. Using the stolen Zarkonian codes, they transmitted authorized identification signals. Heart rates increased as they approached the massive enemy formation, but no alarm sounded. The disguise was working. The Zarkonian fleet was immense. Over 300 vessels arranged in a perfect geometric formation. At its center floated the command ship, a vessel nearly 2 miles long. I've never seen anything like it, whispered Melissa, staring at the display. Stay focused, Eric reminded them. We have one job. Everything else depends on us completing it. The Shadow approached the command ship from below, using the radiation wake from the massive engines as additional cover. They reached the access point Lisa had identified without incident. We're in position, Eric reported back to Earth. Beginning infiltration. The 4-person team donned their specialized suits, modified versions of Zarkonian environmental gear that would protect them from the radiation and, hopefully, disguise them from internal sensors. Eric led them through the access hatch and into the labyrinthine interior of the enemy vessel. Meanwhile, Earth's main fleet jumped into the Proxima Centauri system, appearing at the edge of the Zarkonian formation. The battle began immediately. Zarkonian ships responded with terrifying efficiency, their weapons tearing through the first line of Earth vessels in seconds. Admiral Peterson watched from the bridge of his flagship as the casualties mounted. Hold the line, he ordered. We need to keep their attention for as long as possible. Inside the Zarkonian command ship, Eric's team moved carefully through maintenance tunnels. Lisa's knowledge of the ship's layout proved accurate, though twice they had to hide from Zarkonian repair crews. The central network hub should be 2 levels up, she whispered, checking the stolen schematics. As they climbed, a general alarm sounded throughout the ship. They've detected us, Melissa said, readying her weapon. But Joe shook his head, monitoring the Zarkonian communications on. A stolen device. No, it's the battle. Their ships are fully engaging Earth's fleet. Eric felt a mixture of relief and dread. The plan was working, but Earth's forces were now dying to buy them time. They needed to move faster. The central network hub was a massive chamber filled with glowing equipment. Energy patterns flowed visibly through transparent conduits, connecting to thousands of terminals. 3 Zarkonian technicians worked at control stations. "We need them out of there," Eric whispered. Melissa smiled and pulled out a small device. "Diversion coming up." She tossed the device down a side corridor, where it began emitting radiation signatures identical to a critical system failure. The Zarkonian technicians responded immediately, rushing toward the false alarm. "Now," Eric ordered. The team sprinted to the central terminal. Joe connected the virus device while the others stood guard. "Upload beginning," Joe reported. 30 seconds to completion. In space, the battle went badly for humanity. Over 40 Earthships had already been destroyed. Admiral Peterson's flagship took a direct hit, knocking out its main weapons. "Reroute power to the shields," he ordered calmly. "Keep us in the fight." On the Zarkonian command ship, High Commander Vexillar watched the battle with satisfaction. These humans fought with more spirit than expected, but the outcome was inevitable. "Begin the second attack wave," he ordered. "Target their largest vessels first." Just as his officers moved to obey, something strange happened. The display screens flickered. Communications became garbled. "What is happening?" Vexillar demanded. "Unknown, High Commander," his chief officer responded. "We are detecting a system anomaly in the central network." Back in the network hub, Joe watched the upload complete. "It's done. The virus is deployed." "Now we get out of here," Eric said. "Back to the ship, quickly." But as they turned to leave, 4 Zarkonian guards blocked their path, weapons raised. "Humans," one of them snarled in his own language, which their stolen communication devices translated. "Surrender or die." Melissa reacted first, throwing a smoke grenade that filled the corridor. In the confusion, Eric and Lisa managed to take down 2 guards. Joe and Melissa handled the others, but the alarm was now raised throughout the ship. "New plan," Eric said. "We split up. Multiple targets are harder to catch than one. Meet at the extraction point in 10 minutes. The team separated, each taking a different route through the ship. Behind them, the virus spread through the Zarkonian network. In the battle, the effect was immediately visible. The perfect formation of Zarkonian ships began to break down. Some vessels fired on their allies, others lost power and drifted aimlessly. Admiral Peterson saw the change and seized the opportunity. "All ships press the attack. Focus on disabled vessels." Earth's forces, though decimated, surged forward with renewed determination. On the command ship, Vexillar watched in horror as his fleet fell into chaos. "What is happening to our network?" he shouted. "We've been infected with some kind of virus," his technology officer replied. "It's rewriting command protocols faster than we can counter it. Shut down the network. If we do that, we lose all coordination across the fleet. And if we don't, we destroy ourselves." Vexillar slammed his fist on the control panel. "Shut it down now." The order came too late. Critical systems throughout the ship began failing as the virus reached life support controls. Emergency protocols activated sealing sections of the ship to prevent complete destruction. In the confusion, Eric and his team fought their way back to their access point. Lisa was hit by a Zarkonian weapon, the energy blast burning through her suit into her shoulder. "Leave me," she gasped as Eric pulled her along. "Complete the mission." "No one gets left behind," Eric replied firmly. "That's not how humans operate." They reached the shadow with seconds to spare, Zarkonian forces closing in behind them. As the ship detached from the command vessel, Melissa fired their remaining explosives, creating a barrier of debris that bought them time to escape. Admiral Peterson watched in amazement as the mighty Zarkonian fleet collapsed into disorder. Earthships, though badly damaged, pressed their advantage, capturing several enemy vessels including the command ship itself. When the battle ended, humanity had suffered terrible losses. Nearly 70% of their fleet was destroyed or disabled. But against all odds, they had won. The Zarkonian invasion was stopped, and among the prisoners taken from the command ship was High Commander Vexillar himself, the architect of the invasion and the highest authority of the Zarkonian Empire, present in the system. The first battle for Earth survival was over, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Zarkonian Empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. They would not accept this defeat easily. The real war was just beginning. 1 week after the battle in the Proxima Centauri system, High Commander Vexlar stood in a secure room aboard Earth's orbital defense station. His wrists were bound, but he maintained the proud bearing of a Zarkonian military leader. Across, from him sat Admiral Gary Peterson, Commander Eric Wilson, and several members of Earth's Defense Council. "Your resistance was impressive," Vexlar admitted, speaking through a translation device. "No species has ever defeated a full Zarkonian battle group before, but you must understand, what you faced was merely an advance force. The Empire spans 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. When they learn of this setback, they will send a fleet 10 times larger." Gary exchanged glances with the other humans. They had expected this. The captured Zarkonian ships had contained star charts showing the true extent of the Empire. Earth had won a battle, but the war seemed impossible to win. "How long before your main fleet arrives?" Gary asked. Vexlar made a gesture that translated to a smile in Zarkonian culture. "Our quantum communication network has already alerted them. They will arrive within 3 of your months. This planet will be reduced to ash." Eric stepped forward. "Tell us about your network, the one we disrupted." "A temporary inconvenience," Vexlar said dismissively. "Our engineers have already developed countermeasures against your virus. The next fleet will be immune." The door to the room opened, and Dr. Olivia Mason entered. She had been part of the original diplomatic mission that first met the Zarkonians. Now she served as the lead scientist studying captured Zarkonian technology. "I think you should see this," she said to Gary, handing him a datapad. Gary read the information, his expression changing from concern to surprise. He passed the pad to Eric, who showed similar reaction. "Is this confirmed?" Gary asked. Olivia nodded. Professor Daniel verified it himself. "The Zarkonian quantum network doesn't just connect their ships in this system. It links to every Zarkonian military installation throughout their empire." For the first time, Vexlar showed a flicker of concern. "What have you done?" Gary turned, back to him. "When we uploaded our virus to your command ship, we didn't just affect your invasion fleet. The virus traveled through your quantum communication system. Right now it's spreading to every military installation in the Zarkonian Empire." "Impossible," Vexlar hissed. "Our network is secure." "Apparently not," Eric said. "You never expected anyone to hack it, so you never properly secured it against internal threats." Olivia displayed a holographic map showing the spread of the virus through Zarkonian space. Red indicators lit up across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy as military bases lost contact or reported system failures. "Your biggest advantage was your perfect coordination," Gary explained. "Now it's your greatest vulnerability." Vexlar's face had lost its blue color, fading to a pale gray. "You cannot comprehend what you've done. The Empire has existed for 2,000 years. We have subjugated 32 species. And now they're breaking free," Olivia added. "We're receiving transmissions from worlds throughout your empire. As your military bases lose power and control, the populations you've enslaved are rising up." In another room nearby, Lisa Warren was meeting with Kevin Collins, who had recovered from his injuries during captivity. They were reviewing schematics of the Zarkonian homeworld defense systems, extracted from the captured ships' databases. "Their entire civilization depends on this network," Kevin noted. "Not just military, but power distribution, food production, everything." Lisa nodded. "They built an empire based on perfect control. Without it, they're vulnerable." Back in the interrogation room, Admiral Susan Brooks entered. She had been directing Earth's diplomatic efforts to contact other species oppressed by the Zarkonians. "We've made contact with representatives from 7 formerly subjugated worlds," she informed the group. "They're offering alliance and support. Apparently the Zarkonians weren't well loved as rulers." Vexlar looked from face to face, gradually understanding the full extent of what had happened. "You primitive creatures," he whispered. "Do you realize what you've done?" The chaos you've unleashed across the galaxy? We defended ourselves, Gary stated simply. Something you didn't think we could do. Susan placed a small device on the table, a quantum entanglement communicator taken from the Zarkonian command ship. This can send one final message to your Empire's leadership, one chance to prevent further bloodshed. Vexlar stared at the device. What message? Eric stepped forward. Tell them to run. Run? Vexlar seemed confused. Yes, Gary confirmed. Because if they come back, we won't just defend Earth this time. We have their navigation data. We have ships with their technology. And we have 32 newly freed species who want revenge. Dr. Olivia Mason explained the situation in terms the Zarkonian could understand. Your Empire studied human biology but missed something crucial. We evolved on a predator-filled world where adaptability meant survival. Our history is filled with smaller forces defeating larger ones through innovation and determination. When threatened, humans don't cower, Susan added. We become more dangerous. Eric nodded. You should have studied our history. Napoleon, Alexander, Genghis Khan, all built empires that seemed unstoppable and all eventually fell. Your people have a choice, Gary said, pushing the quantum communicator toward Vexlar. Rebuild your society without conquest, or face a galaxy united against you. Send the message. Vexalar's hands trembled as he reached for the device. The Zarkonian Empire had never known defeat. For 2,000 years they had only expanded, only conquered. The concept of retreat was foreign, shameful. But as he looked at the determined faces of these humans, this species that had not only survived the Empire's attack but turned it against them, he understood something new. Fear. What should I say? He asked quietly. The truth, Gary replied. That you underestimated us. That the cost of continuing this war will be the end of your civilization. Vexlar activated the communicator. The device linked instantly to the Imperial, high command across the vast distance of space. In his native language, he began to explain what had happened, but his words faltered as he tried to describe the complete reversal of fortune. Finally, he simplified his message to a single word that would be understood by every member of his species. Run. The humans observed silently as Vexlar completed his transmission. When he finished, the room was quiet for several long moments. Will they listen? Susan finally asked. They have no choice. Vexlar replied softly. Your virus has crippled our military capability. It will take years to rebuild a secure network. By then, he didn't finish the thought. In the days that followed, Earth began preparing for a new future. The captured Zarkonian technology accelerated human development by centuries. Engineers Lisa Warren and Ryan Cooper led teams adapting the alien ships for human use. Professor Daniel Martinez worked with Kevin Collins to develop new security systems based on what they had learned about quantum communication. Earth's defensive perimeter expanded, with new monitoring stations established throughout the solar system. But the focus wasn't solely on military preparation. Susan Brooks led diplomatic missions to the worlds formerly under Zarkonian control, building alliances and trade agreements. 3 months passed, then 6. No Zarkonian fleet appeared. Reports from the far reaches of the galaxy indicated that the Empire had turned inward, focusing on rebuilding their shattered network and dealing with rebellions on many of their worlds. On the 1-year anniversary of the battle at Proxima Centauri, Admiral Gary Peterson stood with his officers at a memorial service honoring those who had died defending Earth. The monument listed thousands of names, crews of ships lost in battle, civilians from Hope Colony who never escaped. They gave everything so humanity could survive, Gary said to the assembled crowd. But they did more than save our world. They changed the galaxy. For 2,000 years, the Zarkonian Empire expanded unchallenged. Because of these brave men and women, 32 species are now free. After the ceremony, Eric Wilson walked with Olivia Mason through the memorial garden. Both wore the new uniform of Earth's interstellar fleet, created from the combined military forces of Earth. Do you think they'll come back? Olivia asked quietly. Eric looked up at the stars visible through the garden's transparent dome. Someday, perhaps. But we'll be ready, and we won't be alone. On a view screen nearby, news played showing the latest diplomatic summit on Earth. Representatives from 15 formerly subjugated species had arrived to discuss mutual defense and cultural exchange. The galaxy was entering a new era, one where cooperation might replace conquest. The legend of humanity's victory spread across the stars, how a single species, facing their first interstellar war, had brought down an empire with a virus and a message. A simple message that changed everything. Run,